there's two options usually when grabbing things from the asset store and starting to build stuff. So either you almost just go in bare, so you could use all these assets and start building levels right from scratch, not really caring what you prototyped out before. Maybe you didn't like your prototype levels. Maybe you just want to see what you can build with these assets. That's definitely an option. However, if you're fortunate enough to have levels that you prototyped out and levels that you like the design of, like they feel nice to you, you think that the gameplay or experience is great. This applies both to VR and games or anything you guys are doing. Then building them based on how your prototype level was built might be a good idea. So we're going to do that because all of you guys should have a nice prototyping level that we built last time. If we go into our scenes folder, we have, I believe, main was my first one, and world 1 is this one. So I want to build on this one, sort of, but I actually want to not delete any of this stuff in case I mess it up really badly. So to do so, I'm just going to right-click on this, and then we're going to, oh, well, they don't offer you the duplicate option. However, you can just press Control-D and Command-D, similar to how we did before, and it'll let you duplicate it. You can probably copy and paste it too, whatever works best for you. So I'm going to duplicate it and call it maybe Forest World, something like that. And then make sure to double-click on it, so that we switch over. And you should be able to see which world you're in by looking at your hierarchy. You can see on mine, I'm currently in Forest World, so that's great. So that means I can change things here, and if I really mess it up, it just looks terrible, I can always go back to my prototype level world 1. Sweet. So let's get to it then. So we have all of our stuff here, and it looks good. So let's start placing some assets in here. So we have a bunch of options, obviously, and I encourage you guys to experiment, but I'm going to sort of go through the standard way that I liked setting it up and how I thought felt good, and then you guys can choose if that feels the same to you. So for me, I sort of liked having a platform like this for the player to start on. I thought that looked pretty cool. It's just sort of like a basic mountain. So if we drag it in, we can drag it over here. You can see that our mountain is relatively small. It is the size of the vault, actually, at this point. So we're going to have to fix that, but no worries, we can. So let's just go and you can either grab your scale tool, pressing R, and just scale it up until you get a good size. And I actually might do that. I mean, just scale it up till it looks about right, maybe a bit more. Drag it down a bit. Yeah, that might be a tad big. Shrink it, drag it up. That's looking good, I guess. Might still be a little bit big. I might go straight into here and just go 25, 25, 25. Yeah, that's about what I'm looking for. Okay, cool. And I want this to be on the same height as it was previously, so I'm going to do a vertex snap on this corner right here and just snap it over to one of these corners. I think I grabbed the wrong corner. It's vertex snap on this corner. There we go. Right there. And then I'm going to drag it back a little bit. Something a little more like this. This actually might still be a little bit too big. I might scale it down to 20. So when it comes to level design, it usually ends up being pretty iterative, where you end up grabbing things, testing out how they look, not liking it, and then fixing it. So I think that's a natural process. So be prepared to do that when doing these sort of things. So I think that looks pretty good. It's a nice look. You can see we have our blue thing sort of shining through. So what you can do is when you keep clicking in the same area, it'll switch through all the things that are potentially there. So I can just keep clicking until I get to that blue one. I don't want this anymore. I've now placed a ground. So I can press Control Delete or Command Delete, and it'll be gone. Or just delete if your computer has a delete key. I'm doing Control Backspace technically. Okay, sweet. So I'm assuming you guys are all putting some stuff in your world, but let me just test it out, see how it looks when I press play. And I fall through the world instantly and into the abyss. Perfect, exactly what we wanted. So there is an issue here, obviously. And the issue is that when you download things from the asset store, they're not always exactly how you'd want them to be. So in this case, the assets look really nice. I like their visual quality and feel, but they currently aren't set up with physics. And in a sense, that might actually be a good thing. If I'm just using them for visuals, I probably don't want them to have physics by default. But however, I do want these to collide with the world. So we should probably add stuff to it to make it do so. So previously we've used things like box colliders and sphere colliders to interact. But this is a more complex shape. It doesn't really work perfectly with boxes or spheres necessarily. If you look at any of your models that you may have dragged in, you'll see that you have something like this. It'll say, for me, it's Nature Pack 019, and then it actually has an object underneath it, which is Mesh 1 Group 1 model, and it's probably named the same for all of them. And you can see that inside of Nature Pack 019, we actually have nothing at all. This is an empty transform where the actual mesh is stored beneath it. So this is a little bit awkward for us because that means in order to add a collision, we have to go down to that mesh level, but that's okay. You can't always get things perfect when you're getting things for free. So let's go down to the mesh on whatever objects you guys have. You can also do that by just clicking on this, clicking on it again. It usually shifts between the two, and make sure that on your inspector you can see a mesh right here and a mesh renderer. You should be able to turn on and off the mesh renderer and get the whole thing to disappear. If that is the case, and you can see that on the side, then you go in, click Add Component, and there is conveniently a mesh collider. Perfect. So a mesh collider does more or less what you'd expect. Is it's a collider that conforms to the visuals of the object. So in this case, it's going to collide how this looks. So if I press play, you can see now I can actually be on top of it, and I can try to like eke my way down and land on that. So you can sort of see that the mesh collider has let us collide with this object. Seems perfect. It's awesome. Why don't we use this for everything? So mesh colliders tend to be a bit more expensive as far as performance goes. Your computer has to work a lot harder to make mesh colliders work well. That doesn't mean they're bad, but there are certain instances where you might want to approximate things with boxes and spheres more. Specifically, if you have things moving around a lot, then it's usually a good idea not to use a mesh collider. I think they actually don't allow you to use a mesh collider unless it happens to be convex. And if you press convex, you see that the green box doesn't fit perfectly. It has to sort of conform to this mathematical property of convexity. Right now I don't want that, so I'm going to take that off. Sweet. So all you guys should be able to start placing assets in the world and getting collision on them.